Is it possible that Jamaica's Copie Duppy was a Baccoo or buck? There are theories regarding exactly what a buck is. Lore which might have made its way up from Suriname says that the buck is a spirit which is typically trapped inside of a glass bottle or jar and thrown into the sea. Should you find one of these vessels and free the imprisoned buck, he will do your bidding out of gratitude, provided you feed him a diet of bananas and milk. If it is not fed, the buck would turn against its owner, wreaking havoc on his life. A baccoo is usually owned by mostly business people. Baccoo may actually be derived from a Nigerian Yoruba entity called a Baccoo. The Baccoo is the spirit of a baby that had passed away before being named. They are usually represented by small wooden statues in Yoruba homes as a form of appeasement to the spirit of the deceased. Baccoo in many West African languages means little brother or short man. It also is related to the word Baccoo, meaning banana. The Guyanese Baccoo may actually be derived from these statues. Guyanese Baccoos are described as short men with large eyes, long arms and legs, and most conspicuously, an absence of kneecaps. The Baccoo is a mythological figure that closely resembles a leprechaun from Irish folklore. It is a dwarf-like entity that rewards its owner with wealth untold or answers wishes, as long as it is fed with a steady and constant supply of milk and bananas. It behaves a little like a poltergeist by causing trouble and moving items, pelting homes with rocks and causing general mayhem. Baccoos are mischievous, intelligent, and quite devious. A trickster that can shapeshift, make itself unseen, and torment those around him. They are mainly active during nighttime hours. In Guyanese lore, one tale is that a rich man kept his Baccoo high on a shelf out of eyesight and used a ladder to reach him nightly to feed him his milk and bananas. On the eve that this man had to go out of town, he instructed his servant to feed the beast but to keep his eyes averted. The owner knew how devious and cruel the Baccoo could be. When the servant went to feed it, he naturally looked to see what it was that was kept up high on the shelf. He was greeted by a huge black snake that appeared. The servant was so startled that he fell off the ladder and broke his neck. Another popular one talks of a pair of invisible rampaging Baccoos that held a village hostage by raining stones over the houses, breaking windows and injuring residents. When a Baccoo takes over, the person will act crazy and go insane, almost like Obeah or voodoo was performed. Old people from West Coast Demerara often speak of two famous Baccoos, named Boise and Boya. They lived in Stewartville, on the old road. As the stories go, if anyone would say anything bad about them, or about Baccoos in general, they would get angry and make bad things happen to whoever had said bad things. They had once covered a man in feces for saying bad things about them, and another story is that they had caused objects in a man's house to start flying around. So what do you do if you have a Baccoo hanging around you or picking on you? It is said they can be trapped inside a bottle, but not very easily. First, something that attracts them must be put into the bottle. Once the Baccoo has gone into the bottle, a cork is jammed into the neck to act like a stopper. Once this is accomplished, the Baccoo cannot escape. These Baccoo bottles are then thrown into the ocean or waterways. If you're in Guyana and you see a corked bottle bobbing on the surface of the water, might be best to leave it be. Legends have it that if it does contain a Baccoo and you open the bottle, the Baccoo will stay with you and you must feed him milk and bananas or incur his wrath. There are stories about rich Trinidadians who came upon their wealth not through hard work, but rather through a trip to the forests of Guyana to capture one of these little wish granters. Before you start calling travel services to book a flight, you should know that there is also a persistent rumor regarding a stretch of highway known for fatal accidents. Some residents insist that this is sacrifice demanded by the buck owned by nearby businessmen. Another myth, which seems to have its origins in Africa, claimed that the buck is not a supernatural entity at all, but rather a member of a pygmy race versed in the black arts. Bucks are being used to this very day. Was Copie in fact a buck, who was brought to Jamaican soil by Mr. Brown. Both were kept in bottles, both according to eyewitness accounts were short in stature. Both were mischievous in nature. Mr. Brown was also a businessman with a fruitful farm. Is there a possibility that Mr. Brown was feeling Copie's wrath because he wasn't feeding the entity bananas and milk? Both Copie and the bucks in this passage make themselves invisible and also hail stones. Copie was considered somewhat a genie. Bucks also have genie-like characteristics. Do you think Jamaica's Copie Duppy was a buck? If you know anything about Buck's Baccoo, feel free to share in the comments below.